Now, voting stations in the Northwest opened late on Saturday. This was due to community protests. SABC News reporter Tebogo Phakedi and video journalist Silo Makgopa join us now for a live update from Mahikeng. Thank you so much for your time, Tebogo. So talk to us about progress there with day 2 of the voter registration weekend.
Thank you very much, Mkolisi. Good morning to you and, of course, to the viewers. We are coming to you from the IEC's Provincial Nerve Center here in Mahikeng. Yes, you are correct. About 13 voting stations opened late yesterday. 10 in the Rustenburg area, which 9 from Moses Kotane and 1 from the Rustenburg area. And, of course, we heard from the IEC this was due to the community protest. The other 3 voting stations in other parts of the province also opened late due to the gates that were not open and all that, but we just want to find out from the IECS of today whether they were open on time, the numbers they received yesterday, particularly of the new voters, those who have registered for the first time to vote. But I just want to invite the Provincial Electoral Officer, Dr. Dumelontle Tiba. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Tiba. We saw yesterday 13 voting stations not opening on time. Just give us the overview as to this morning, if everything was all in order.
This morning was 10 times better than yesterday. There were only 5 voting stations with delayed opening, 2 tents that were damaged by the storm yesterday evening, 1 tent that was delayed by the service provider. All 3 tents are in Madibeng. And we had 1 school in the Ramatsirimulwa area, Lokolwane Primary School, where the caretaker did not give us the keys on time. The one station that really troubled us was at Barolong High School in Mahikeng, where our classroom that we were using yesterday was burglared in, and our banner was stolen. We have since, and stationery, we have since opened a case at the Lomanyaneng police station.
And is that voting stations working today, that one of that particular school?
All of them are working today, and all of them relatively opened on time, because we have 1,738 stations and only these 5 were affected.
It's just after midday. Let's talk about the numbers yesterday as to how many registered, and today, if you do also have the numbers from the morning till now.
The total activity for last night by evening when we closed, it was 47,714 activities, including online registration. And of that, 8,995 were brand new voters. And we're very happy because we were planning for between 5,000 and 10,000 new registrations. So it is obvious that today we will surpass the 10,000 mark, and we're very happy. We haven't collected the stats for this morning because this is an ongoing process, but by noon by say 1400 this afternoon, we should have an idea of what the voter turnout is like.
Yeah, and the comparison between those that are going to the voting stations physically and the online platform, are you at this point able to tell which one is used the most?
It is difficult to determine the amount of usage because the online portal is extremely busy right now. So we'll only be able to do the discernment most probably tomorrow at 9 when we can tell, say, for instance, of the 47,000 plus that came yesterday, how many of those were online registrations.
Yeah. And I know you've said, everything is going smoothly at this point, but we know here in the Northwest, we've seen several hotspots, Taung being one of them when comparing to the previous registration days. Do you know in Kagisanomolopo or in Taung the status there?
We are currently fine in Taung, in Kagisanomolopo and in Mamusa, because we have not had any official reports of disruptions there. We hope that we'll continue working like this. We did make an appeal to members of communities to allow us to register voters freely because this is a relatively free country, really, and for democracy to thrive, we have to cooperate with the Electoral Commission.
Thank you so much for your time. That is the Provincial IEC Electoral Officer, Dr. Tumelontle Tebogo, of course, updating us of, the registration, 2 days of registrations here in the Northwest. And as you've heard, new entrants also making, a mark as they are registering to vote. We've heard from the National Commissioner that their voters roll has now surpassed 27 million. But the question is then, will these people be voting? And they are urged to vote. The IEC is urging them to vote. As you would know, that about 13 million of those who have registered did not vote on the previous, elections. But of course, here in the Northwest Province, as you've heard, all voting stations opened well on time today. Everything is running smoothly. And of course, we'll hear later on around just 5 o'clock if indeed the numbers have increased. But as you've said, you've heard from Dr. Tebogo, they've actually surpassed their mark as far as targets are concerned, with new entrants interested also coming in to register, ensure that they're going to make a mark. But we will hear from the President Cyril Ramaphosa during SONA when he announces the proclamation date for the elections. For now, back to you in studio.
And of course, Tebogo, I want us to backtrack just a little bit on this conversation. You did say that there were some disruptions yesterday due to service delivery protests. Maybe if you can just tell us what the residents were saying or part of their grievances, or what are they grappling with as far as service delivery is concerned, or what they allegedly say is a lack thereof of service delivery.
We've widely covered, service delivery protests here in the Northwest Province, not just in the Rustenburg area. And there are similar concerns from residents, many of them saying they do not have water, municipalities are not doing what it's supposed to do. You just drive throughout internal roads, you would be met with potholes. So these are some of the concerns residents are, voicing out. And you would know it has become a pattern that when it's time for registrations or perhaps elections, that's when you see a lot of people actively voicing out their concerns, bemoaning poor state of service delivery. So that is the case even in the Bojanala area, where many of them for a long time have been complaining about water. They're saying the municipality is also not collecting refuse. They are paying rates, but they do not understand why they are paying. You go to different municipalities here in the province, many of them even subjected to the mandatory financial recovery plan. Many municipalities have been under administration. This showing really the concerns of the communities, as they are saying municipalities are not doing what they ought to be doing. And of course, during activities like this, it is when they come out to voice out their concerns. But we've heard from the National Commission of IEC saying their vote is actually their voice. Therefore, it should not be the case that they close down on the voters stations. Instead, they should be encouraging people to register to vote.
Tebogo Phakedi, thank you so much for that update. And of course, she's watching that story for us from the IEC Nev Center in the Northwest.